We are, as you know, doing, we started our little pilot TV series, which was Clone Wars. And we are now going to move that into a 3D animation half-hour version, which will be a regular series. I'm going to get it started and hire the showrunners and all that sort of thing, but then I'm going to step away from it and go and do other things.
When George announced that the show was going to be happening, I think it was, 2005 back in Indianapolis, Celebration 3. And he said that he was going to kick off the show, get you on your feet, and then he was going to step back. Is George still as hands-on as he's ever been?
He was very hands-on in the beginning. I would see him more than once a week at times. I would have them done and direct them to a certain point until I thought they were ready. And then I would show them to him and say, what do you think of this? But once we established the look of the show, he did step back to a degree. But, you know, he will always be involved in the, he sees a story reel, which is like a very rough form of an episode. So he watches that, and then he gives me notes. He used to come in for those, and we would sit together and watch them. Now he just calls me. And there have been times when we wanted to use things from the EU, and I was like, yeah, but we can't use it that way, so why? I don't want to use it and change it. You know, I don't want to use it and make it something completely different. That's rude.
For so long, Ahsoka's been the Padawan and she's been the student, but now Ahsoka's the teacher and she's the mentor, and I really like that role for Ahsoka. She's pulling all of the good things from Anakin Skywalker. So as we get closer to episode 3 and we see, you know, what's eventually going to happen with him and his eventual turn to the dark side, Ahsoka's not looking at him that way. She's seen all the redeeming qualities, the hero qualities, the older brother qualities, and she's taking everything good from Anakin and all of the lessons he's teaching her.
Lux Bonteri, who's a friend of Ahsoka Tano, obviously, it was his idea to say to the rebels, well, I know a Jedi, I think we need their help. This begins an idea where Anakin says we can train these insurgent groups, we can train up the local freedom fighters to fight for the Republic, to get what we want out of this, and we'll back them. Ultimately, this is now a group of rebels. If it's successful, they will do this on Onderon. They'll do this on a bunch of planets throughout the galaxy. And when everything falls apart and the Empire takes over, you still have these little structures out there of these militias that were created by the Jedi. And they say, whoa, 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 what is this? These clones now, this is exactly what we were worried about because they were so militant. This is imperialism, this is an empire now. So they're not in favor of this. So you see that before the Empire takes over, we already had these little groups out there. And what they do is they need a way to come together, and that's really where your Bail Organas and your Mon Mothmas come in. They're the way that you can galvanize these rebels, and you get a rebel alliance. We're setting all these things up. We're doing it politically, we're doing it strategically through the military, we're doing it through the emotions of the characters, and season 5 really catapults us, you know, pretty far in that direction.
This was one of the starting places for what would eventually become the Rebel Alliance. And one of the things that Dave wanted to do that was subtle but would be there and visible for people with eagle eyes would be that there is a section of the symbol on the classic Rebel Alliance logo that you'll find on Rebel pilot helmets that also appears here on the Onderon Rebel helmet.
Most of the characters we do don't have mouths that are animated, so it makes it really easy for us to drop in lines. If Dave Filoni wants to change a line at the very last minute, we can change those.
There had been other depictions of Jedi going to get their lightsaber crystals, and you know, always it was on the planet Ilum where they found these crystals. So we knew the setting was going to be this ice planet. We knew that it was going to be a bit different than we had seen the caves of Ilum portrayed in the past. It's one of those times where we cut to a definitive source or a definitive origin of Ilum and finding a lightsaber crystal, because, you know, we're sitting there around the table with George Lucas and we're beating out how he imagined this and how he envisioned it, pretty much probably for the very first time.
crystal is the heart of the blade. The heart is the crystal of the Jedi. The Jedi is the crystal of the Force. The Force is the blade of the heart. All are intertwined. The crystal, the blade, the Jedi. You are one.
The second group of episodes in the animated series leads right up to the events that happen in the film. So we get a little background on what was going on right before episode 3.
Something that I also wanted to keep intact in the storytelling was an emphasis on how a Jedi brings the lightsaber together by meditating and kind of seeing the picture in their mind to bring all the pieces together to form the lightsaber. We were making that, just so you know, before the celebration where we saw the clip of Luke Skywalker working on his lightsaber with a little screwdriver. But you know, I like the mystical way as well. So maybe Luke had already done that and he was just refining it at that point in the cave. You know, there's always little twists and turns for your continuity. Ben Burt, you know, and I had just talked about R2-D2 a couple weeks ago and how he did the voice. And to have that kind of first-hand knowledge at our fingertips, guiding us, I think really lends to the authenticity of the R2-D2 in Clone Wars is R2-D2, as he was always meant to be.
When we laid out the stories, and George said, I want to do something different with the second episode. And everyone went, oh no, what does that mean? And he said, I want it to be an episode about nothing. It's meaningful, it's part of the war effort. And so that's how it ended up becoming part of season 5 and taking its kind of rightful place amongst these much bigger, more mature and darker arcs.
When it came to Gregor, something that I really want to stress was that he was unique even for a clone. So when we were in the design phase, I thought, wouldn't it be great if this guy was a Republic commander? It's something that I know the fans want. It's something that I've been interested in. There was a great response when we had them briefly in an episode, and I've been looking for a way to try and fit more Republic commanders in. They aren't something that really comes from George Lucas's Star Wars. They were a creation for a video game franchise, a really great video game that I played to completion. But they're not something that you see in the Star Wars films. If you look at the first episode and now you look at the 100th episode, the increase in quality across the board, whether it be the character design, the animation, the lighting, everything has gotten better and better and better and better. And I've been really fortunate to have an incredible team. And one thing that we all have common, one thing that I think, is true across all 100 episodes and beyond is that we all love Star Wars. Just like you, we grew up with it, and we want to make sure that what you're getting each week is truly the Star Wars experience we had because we loved it so much. I'm always searching for new inspiration and new designs, and I happened to be at the reopening of Star Tours. I was on the ride, and there was Darth Vader in front of me, and we turned around, we flew out, pulled back out of this hangar, and there was this amazing space station. And I thought, well, this kind of thing probably was around during the days of the Republic, so let's make that the meeting place. The quality of work that ILM was able to pull off, it was just astounding. I mean, the perfection of the models, the details. I mean, if you want to get excited about the future of Star Wars and how incredible 7, 8, and 9 are going to be, just look at the work ILM did on that ride. Palpatine has used Jedi for the most part and corrupted them, but Maul is, when you think about that, he's really unique.
Because he was actually trained from a younger age.
Yeah.
Palpatine. There was a lot of investment there.
The parallel between what's happened to Darth Maul and what's happened to Vader. A lot of people say, oh, well, Darth Maul was cut in half. How could he possibly be back? But if you look at Vader,
Vader was cut in pieces and
completely burned and cut to pieces, and yet he survived.
No, he had no limbs, and he was burned to a cinder. And the thing is that for the Sith, there is no transcendent quality to their existence that they can conceive of. There's nothing beyond what they have now.
So everything is at stake if they die.
Everything is at stake
because it's all over.
Yeah,
it's all done.
They can't. If you die, you can't.
You
can't get any more stuff. You can't
take it with you.
You can't take it with you. That's basically it.
So George came up with the idea of teaming up Maul with Mandalorian. George requested the attack and onslaught of Jabba's palace by Mandalorian soldiers. But you probably don't know the Black Sun and the Pikes. The idea of the Black Sun is something that I first learned about the old game kind of multimedia platform, which was Shadows of the Empire. And I thought, well, that would be great to bring the Black Sun into the story, because in a lot of EU material that I had read, Maul was pretty active in breaking up the Black Sun for Sidious. So there's some relevancy there that he would know about the Black Sun, that he would have a good idea of where they were, and that they have a certain amount of power that he could try to make his. To do it right, to make it exciting, that's a whole act, because the fans of Pre-Vizsla are gonna mob me at Celebration in the future if Vizsla goes down too easily. I mean, this is not gonna be a Boba Fett into the Sarlacc pit. And it was one of the kind of early mandates of George in the Clone War, was that he really wanted to kill off a lot of the characters that weren't in the movies. For Satine Kryze, there never really was any other possibility than her eventual death. The introduction of the character, which began with Henry Gilroy wanting to give Obi-Wan Kenobi a love interest, presented a problem. We couldn't really have this character last. This is all happening because of me. Because I failed to prevent Maul from resurrecting. I failed to capture him in the attempts I had before. And does he take that on? Does he take that guilt on? So really, we're laying the groundwork, and have been throughout the entire series, for how you vilify the Jedi Order in the minds and the hearts of the people of the Republic. The underworld is an idea that George, I think, kind of started to develop post-Revenge of the Sith. He was very interested in the layers that make up Coruscant. I think he really loved the city planet, and he wanted to see more development of it. So in season 2, we see Ahsoka and Plo Koon go down there to track down Boba Fett. And the time after that, there had been a lot more development of that area and a lot more clarity as far as what did it look like. Some of you have probably seen the game trailers for 1313. We really worked quite collaboratively with the guys from 1313 with what we were doing, because everybody was kind of zeroing in on how does this level work? How big is it? Do ships fly in and out of there? Just what are the logistics behind it? So there's so much more detail in the world now down there. Ahsoka on the Run is an awesome sequence. I don't know that our show has ever felt more like Star Wars than when all the clones are chasing Ahsoka Tano. This was something that in the original discussion of the episode, we were just going to have her brought back into the Jedi at the end and be done with it, but I thought, well, we have an opportunity here to do something different. I don't think it's a mystery that I've always been a bit more in the Ahsoka Lives camp. And George has been very full on in the Ahsoka Dies camp. I think I've said that before, if not revelation for you. So I thought expelling her from the Jedi Order is a good movement towards that end. Every episode of the Clone Wars ends the same way, with that ring out. Right? How many times have you been sitting at home watching the show and you get kind of, hopefully, if I've done my job, worked into a nice emotional state, and then you're just smacked right out of it by that ring out? For years, I've been trying to get rid of it. Not on every episode. You know, it's fine. But just on certain episodes, I thought this arc was the arc where it had to happen. And I knew it as soon as I read the scripts, and as soon as George sat down and we came up with the idea, I sat there and I thought to myself secretly, this episode's gonna fade out to black. I know George now. And I'm like, there's no way I can sell this to him when we watch it in a rough cut. It's not gonna happen. So when he watched the rough cut for the first time, I didn't put it on there. 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 I didn't put it on there.